Anyone else? No? Okay. Could I have a motion to close public session?
Motion to close the public session?
Thank you. Okay, let's go on to,
Yes.
Ms.
sorry.
King? Mr. Kinney?
Yes.
Mr. Sededicato?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes.
Ms. LaForgia?
Yes. Okay, on to open board discussion and agenda items. Does anybody have? Good. Judy, Ms. Sullivan?
Yes, I have some questions for Mr. Rashiga on the memorandum of agreement with respect to law enforcement. So I did not really understand how this works. There is a website on the State of New Jersey Department of Education page that talks about the Uniform State Memorandum of Agreement between education and law enforcement officials. And it provides for a number of processes that have to take place every year before you re-adopt this memorandum of agreement. For example, you have to meet with the local chiefs. The president has to be informed about how it should be changed. I understand these changes are from 2019, so I don't know why we're voting on them in 2021. The agreement itself is in blank. It doesn't have provisions for the necessary parties. And then I would really like for the public to see the agreement before the board voted on it, if possible, because it does have significant impact to children. For example, reporting, for example, if a child gets arrested off grounds, even though it occurs during school operating hours, the principal will be notified. So I'm not saying I object to any of those provisions. I'm saying that the public really should see the agreement, and I need some assurance that those procedures have been followed as recommended by the Attorney General on the website. I also have some questions about clubs. I don't know if you want to answer the memorandum of agreement question first.
Sure, I'll do that. Yeah, let's do that. The memorandum of agreement, oh goodness, this goes back probably 15, 20 years when they started this. It's a template that's actually forwarded to us from the state, and that's how it comes forward. We look at 2019, that was the last major revision put into the document. So consequently, for 2020, we did do this last year. You signed off on it last year. And then for this year, so the only thing that really changed, because the implementation was in 2019, is just the dates. There's really just date changes that are there. So you're looking at the same document that you looked at for the past 2 years. You are absolutely correct. What the intent with the whole memorandum of agreement was to share information between the schools and law enforcement based on situations that involve your students. So it could be something, as you mentioned, you know, we look at some students have some issues perhaps with using drugs, narcotics, whatever the case may be. If there's an arrest made, they share that with the school. The same thing happens if we as a school do something where we're searching for a cause, with a cause, I should say, and we find that a student is holding contraband or involved in some type of activity that's illegal, we have to share that with the police. So it's a back and forth so that we're working together. I can tell you that we do want to do the right thing as far as law enforcement, but we also have to look at ways to protect the student or help the student so that these problems can be reduced or eradicated altogether. So that's basically what we're looking at. So what you're saying is you want to have an opportunity for the public to look at it, that's fine. Then you would have to, are you looking to move it out to the next meeting?
No, I'm
okay.
not, but I do believe that under our bylaws, we have a requirement to answer questions from our constituents. And for example, I would want to know as a parent that, and it's in the agreement, it's posted online, I'm not revealing any secrets,
Right,
that
yeah.
the police can access the live stream cameras at any time if there are certain conditions that are met. I would want to know that if I was a parent.
Okay.
Because it has certain implications if your child, especially if you're a disabled child, there's special protections. I just think that they should know. So I don't really have a preference.
Okay.
If you could maybe post the link that's on the State of New Jersey Department of Education website for the parents so they can
That's fine.
familiarize themselves.
We can do that.
Maybe that's something that you want to consider.
And that's basically, egregious acts that happen in schools. If it's an assault or something, then the police have the right to come in and view the cameras, okay? So that's where it's at. But we can make it available. Yeah.
So, Dr.
Yeah.
Dr. Rashika, you have a deadline date for that too? Don't you have to submit?
Well, I think we have to get it to the county office by the 1st of November.
By the 1st. So I did have a discussion with Mr. Fogarty regarding this, so we can table it. I'm sorry, we can
Yeah.
table it if everybody needs a little more time to read it. It was 78 pages, but then it will probably need to be passed by the next
Yeah,
meeting.
definitely will need
So, I mean,
to,
we
yeah.
can discuss that, or we can move forward. Would you be, okay, so it stays on the board packet for now. Okay,
I just had some questions.
okay.
On the clubs, the RAALC club, there's 2 of them that are defined for each of the schools. The only time that I'm familiar that club met was when Josh Gottheimer spoke to the school last year. Does this club meet regularly? Is it an active club? Do students go to
Okay.
things?
Yeah. First, I wanted to correct one part of that. It takes place here at Ramapo. It's listed twice because there's 2 advisors.
It's listed twice what?
2 advisors that are
As 2
part of that.
advisors.
That's it.
Okay, so it only is at Ramapo High School.
Correct. And I've been told, because I did question this last year, because I think it was May or early June when there was some kind of event that took place here. We had an athlete come in from, a very good athlete come in from one of the colleges. The president of NJSISSA was here for the athletics in New Jersey, representing them. Some of our coaches spoke, students spoke, our former superintendent, Bev McKay, was here. So it was my understanding that they do this every year to share some of the things for the kids for academic side and the athletics, to make that comparison and talk about what the specifications, qualifications are for playing on the next level. I'm not aware of, I wasn't part of this. I was working in my office that day. Josh Gottheimer, I think he was part of the, was it a video broadcast or something?
He was there, yes. He
Okay.
spoke through Zoom.
All right. So as far as I know, they come together, they meet with some of the kids and come up with the ideas of what topics they're going to discuss.
So it only meets once a year? Is
Well,
that?
the culmination is the event, that event as we
I
saw.
see.
That's it.
Okay, and with respect to the Democrat Club, the description in the board packet said, the high school Democrats, the advisor is Stacy Anson, who is the head of our teachers union. The Ramapo High School Democrats Club has been at Ramapo on and off for a couple of decades. Their goal is to give students a safe place to discuss their political views as well as volunteer for campaigns, host speakers, and run community service drives. Last year, the club raised thousands of dollars to benefit local women's charities in need of personal hygiene products and clothes. The club also had a number of speakers, including a former Ramapo graduate who is the main speechwriter for Janet Yellen, one of Biden's cabinet members. So my concern was that, last year, I believe there was a student who wanted to start a Republican club, and somehow or another, the effort got quashed. Is there any chance that we could rename this club so that it's viewed as being bipartisan? So maybe like the High School Democracy Club or something to that effect, so that everyone can feel welcome, and that if we do have speechwriters for Biden's cabinet members, could there be consideration by the superintendent to make sure that balance is brought to the speaking program? Because our board policy does require that if speakers are being brought in, like what happened with Tori Cummings coming in last year, that generated a lot of upsetness from parents because there was only one side that was present at that presentation.
Right.
So is there any consideration that we can give to rename the club so that it doesn't say High School Democrats, or something that's just a little bit more neutral?
At this point, I would prefer to leave it as it is and try to emphasize the fact to students that if they want to start a Republican club, young students for Republicans, or whatever the case may be, that takes place. I mean, they all have an equal opportunity to bring different clubs to the administration to be supported. Now, I know you spoke about someone who went ahead and did this, and then it was taken off by the principal. But in speaking with the principal, I have to say that the only case I know was a student that came forward looking for support to get students to actually do intern work for, I believe, Republican Club, Wyckoff, or something like that. And the student was given that opportunity. So
Through this club?
through no, I'm talking about a separate student
Oh.
came forward. You were referring to your statement that we've heard before in regards to a student trying to start a Republican club, and it was suppressed, or whatever the case may be. So I really, looking at both, I would like to keep the club that's in place, and then perhaps have students that are really interested in starting the Republican club for balance, to seek an advisor and make that work.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Can I just add to that? I have seen through my son on Schoology that Mrs. Anson does put a statement that welcomes both, Democrats. It's bipartisan.
Yeah,
So
I
just-
think she's trying to be fair as possible. It's the
I
name that
understand
people-
that,
yeah.
obviously, by her comment, adding that
Sure.
comment, but yet there's opposition to just renaming it?
Okay.
Or do you know that? I mean, you know that there's opposition to rename it?
Not that I'm aware.
Oh, but you'd just rather keep it at this? Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
Well, maybe before we
Yeah.
move on, did we address all the questions from the public?
Yeah, I know, I forgot. I was going to do it just before we go into the next session, so.
Perfect. I just
yeah,
wanted to make
thank you
sure
for
we-
keeping me online. I just looked down at my notes and I said, absolutely. So sorry, crowd. Well, I promise I'll get back to the answers.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the board?
I just want to make clear, if you don't mind, Ms. LaForgier, that on the clubs, the ones with the asterisks are the new clubs,
Right.
okay?
Right. And then the only other thing that I did talk to you about, Mr. Shika, is that Ron Anello is retiring as of December, so he is kind of footnoted there, but
Okay.
someone will fill that position, I
Fill the
guess.
position, because it is a split position, as I just indicated.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Any other questions on the board packet itself? No? Okay. All right, so.
Motion before we vote on something, right?
I can't hear it.
We can make a motion if we're going to vote on something or add something to the agenda. Should we do that now or just wait before we go? Before we vote on the whole
Would you like to add
packet?
something to the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to add one thing. Obviously, Mr. Budo has moved on, and he
Yes.
will not be returning. So what I wanted to do is make a motion to nominate John Kenny to fill his spot as vice president.
Second.
Okay.
Can I be heard on this?
Judy, Ms. Sullivan?
So Robert's Rules of Order, which we have adopted, 56:32, provides that unless the bylaws clearly provide otherwise, notice of filling a vacancy in office must always be given to members of the body that will elect the person to fill it. And we have not provided such notice. Seems like a technicality, but there have been rumors swirling around that the board is, with their majority, is going to try to oust our president, and I'm a little concerned that that would mean that Mr. Kinney would immediately ascend to the presidency. So I'm respectfully requesting that we post this notice and that we postpone voting on this, because we will be in violation of Robert's Rules 56:32 if we vote on this tonight, because our bylaws do not have a provision. It just says we have to do it within 30 days, and since we don't have the provision, a notice of filling the vacancy must always been given to the members of the body, and I have not received such notice.
Mr. Lamb? Can you comment?
I would have to review Robert's rules. I can honestly say I'm not familiar with that provision, but I don't
send
see
it to
any
you.
harm in waiting one more meeting before electing a vice president, but really, it would be up to the majority of the board on how to proceed.
It's not up to the majority. Point of order, 56:32 says the notice has to be filled. I'll send you the provision.
Thank you.